The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Pompey have completed the signing of Min Hyuk Yang on a season-long loan deal from Tottenham Hotspur. It's the second championship stint for the South Korea international winger, who spent the latter half of the 2024-25 campaign with Queen's Park Rangers. The boss, John Messino, said Yang was an extremely highly rated player when he first came over to join Spurs in January. He then went straight out on loan to QPR and enjoyed a really strong impact with them in the Championship. I remember having the privilege of watching him live in a Friday night game against Derby when he performed so well in a 4-0 victory before coming down to Fratton Park a week later. It's been a whirlwind few months for Yang since he arrived in England, and we're excited to have him at Pompey. We believe he's a real prospect and know that Tottenham think highly of him, so this is the next part of his development. He's direct and exciting in the way that he plays and can really help us achieve what we're looking for this season. Yang began his career in his homeland with Gangwon and became the youngest player to win the K-League Player of the Month award in July 2024. He moved to England to pen a long-term deal with Spurs at the start of 2025, having agreed to join the London Giants the previous summer. A loan move to QPR followed a few weeks later, and he made 14 appearances for the club, including a substitute outing in their 2-1 defeat at Fratton Park. Yang also found the net twice, scoring the consolation in a defeat at Stoke before helping to wrap up a 3-1 victory at Oxford. Having represented South Korea at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup and AFC Under-17 Asia Cup, he earned a senior first cap in a World Cup qualifying draw with Jordan back in March.
Andrew Moon of BBC Radio predicts the following.
Expectations? After a dreadful start to last season, Pompey required close to playoff form for much of the campaign to survive, something they achieved with 2 games to spare. With another year of championship experience under their belts, the hope will be they can avoid a relegation battle this time around. Given relative resources, that would be another huge achievement. Strengths? Fratton Park is a serious asset, and if they can come close to repeating last year's home form, they'll do okay. Josh Murphy is one of the best wingers in the championship. He was outstanding for much of last season. Weaknesses? There's not a lot of depth or experience in key positions. Pompey really struggled when striker Colby Bishop was out last season. Injuries to him or Murphy could be very problematic. Lose both for an extended period, and goals could seriously dry up. Difference maker. Connor Shaughnessy missed most of last season injured, but looked every inch a championship centre-back when he did play. If he can stay fit, it would be significant.
Andrew Moon's very good, isn't he? We like his commentaries, and we like the stuff he writes about Pompey. He knows the club inside out, and his comments are worth their weight in gold. The format of the piece that we've just reported is applied to all the clubs in the Championship in a huge feature that the BBC have done, and you want to go to their website if you want to read the same sort of treatment of all of our competing clubs in the Championship this season. The format is such that he had to nominate a player who he thought might make the difference. I think he would have liked to have nominated several, and he managed to get a good mention in on Josh and also Colby, but he's chosen Connor Shaughnessy, and we'll go along with it. If anybody is going to be our star of the season, let it be one of our centre-backs who keeps us in clean sheets.
John Messino is targeting a good start to the new season.
What we have to do is make sure that after a very tough campaign last year, we don't put in all of that good work and waste it, so to speak. That has to be the priority for this football club at this moment in time. If we can build upon that and look up, having secured as many points as possible as early as possible, then great. If we do manage to get off to a good start and we pick up a few points, then who knows where the season can take us. We'll obviously be looking to get off to a bit of a better start this time, if possible, and then go from there and try and build on that. And that's quite exciting for us as well. There's plenty of opportunities available for us this season in a tough league.
January signing Australian striker Thomas Waddingham, 20, has caught the eye with 4 goals in 6 appearances, and Messino said,
He's come back in really good shape. He's had a real impact in those pre-season games, scored plenty of goals, looked a real threat. More importantly, I think he's fitted into the pace of some of these games, particularly when they have been tough, and that's really pleasing for us. Last season's 11-goal top league scorer Colby Bishop missed Portsmouth's final 3 pre-season games after picking up a muscular injury. Mousinho confirmed the expectation remains that Bishop will miss the first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer that we want a better start to the season than we had last season, but it's still worth the boss explaining that so that everybody hears it, not just the journalists, but the fans and the players hear it. We've got to hit the ground running. Well, we would like to hit the ground running. A bad result won't be the end of the world against Oxford, say, and the following match, which is Norwich. If we've got no points on the board after those 2 games, and that does seem very unlikely, but if we have, it's still not the end of the world, because it wasn't the end of the world last season when we had such a horrific start and we managed to get it all together. We put in a lot of work, the players have put in a lot of work, the club has worked very hard at every level during the closed season to make sure that we are absolutely on song when the whistle blows for the kick-off against Oxford United. So put that one behind us and focus on what he was saying about Adrian Segicic. Very quietly, people are saying he looks good. He looks better than whatever we paid for him, which is what's described as a training fee. It wasn't so much a transfer fee. We compensated his club in Australia for whatever their expenses were, plus a little bit, I suppose, on top, for getting him to the level that he is at, which is a level that we want. And we're also starting to see a bit of an identikit of a particular type of wide midfield player that John Mousinho wants. He doesn't want, a brick-built guy out wide. He wants someone who is mobile, who has stamina, who has speed. And if that person is, 5'8", rather than 6'2", then that's what he wants, because there is greater mobility in that kind of physique. So if you look at Matt Ritchie, if you look at Callum Lang, and if you look at Adrian Segicic, they are 3 peas in a pod. They are strong, they are muscular, but above all, they are mobile and they are quick and they can run all day. And they can run with the ball. They're not just running machines, they're footballers as well. Now they're busy. And they'll go at players if it's appropriate with the ball. And they'll try and score goals. And they will score goals. And this is his template for the wide midfield player. Josh Murphy doesn't have to do too much tackling back, but when he does, he does. He doesn't have to do too much pressing, quite so much pressing as Matt Ritchie did towards the last half of last season. Matt Ritchie was the ultimate presser, wasn't he? And there's no doubt that Lang and Segicic are going to be doing the same job. They might have been shown videos of what Matt Ritchie was doing and saying, you can do that. And what he did there, that was Premier League. Premier League wide midfield play. And you can do that. And that's what we want from you. That's what we want to see from you. That's what you want for yourself. That's what's going on at the moment on the training ground at Fratton Park. So, a good start to the season. Yes, please. Segicic, double yes, please.
John Mousinho puts a positive spin on Pompey's lack of an under-21 setup, saying,
"We probably take a lot of flack at the club for not having an under-21 side. It's something we'd love to do, but can't at the moment. One of the things in attracting younger players to come in is saying, we don't have an under-21 side, so we're bringing you in to affect the first team. There's been some players in the past couple of seasons that's not been the case for, but very few. Ruben Swan is one, who was brought in to develop into a first-team player at some point. With Ruben, though, he didn't have to affect the team tomorrow. With Segicic, when we bring him in, he needs to affect the first team straight away. We haven't got time to allow him to develop in a 21 setup, even though he is 20 years of age. We haven't got the resources to do that, or time to loan him out. It's very much you're playing for Portsmouth, we're going to help you be good enough, but you have to be good enough now. That's a really attractive thing for players to hear."
As is increasingly always the case, John Mousinho gets his management absolutely spot on. He acknowledges that it would be nice if we had an under-21 set-up, but he says he's able to use the fact that we haven't got an under-21 set-up to our advantage when it comes to attracting players such as Adrian Segicic to Pompey, because he's able to say to them, we don't have an under-21 set-up, you would be eligible for it. We could send you down to the under-21s to incubate you and improve you, but we ain't got one, so you'll be straight in line to affect phrase he likes to use, to affect the first team. And he uses it as a selling point to bring these players to Pompey. And he uses it to motivate those young players to want to be part of the affecting of the first team. Now, this is clever management, isn't it? It's what John Messino does, almost in secret. We barely notice it. But he does things, he says things, he behaves in a way that makes his players play even better than they thought they could on occasions. And he's getting the best out of everybody. He knows how to do that. He manages people so well. He knows his football. He was a very, very good footballer himself, which helps. He knows his football inside out. He knows people inside out. And he gets the best out of our players. And he's getting the best out of the fans as well, because we have never been louder. Play up, Pompey!
The BBC are profiling Oxford's lineup v Pompey like this.
Oxford United's return to the Championship last season was a real baptism of fire, though you wouldn't know it from how they handled themselves. 9 of the 11 who battled through that League One playoff final stepped up to the challenge, despite the club's 25-year absence from the division. Under Gary Rowett's steady hand, they didn't just survive, they made it look easy at times. Looking ahead to this weekend's kickoff, most of last season's proven Championship performers will likely feature again, with just a few new faces in the mix. The fresh additions, Brodie Spencer, Brian de Keersmaker, and returning loanee Jack Curry, all seem ready for the challenge ahead. The squad's shaping up nicely. That said, there's a nagging worry they might be a bit underprepared for the Portsmouth opener. Their Indonesian pre-season tour was great for building relationships abroad, but it cut into Rowett's notorious summer fitness regime. Throw in some badly timed injuries affecting squad depth, and you can see why there's some concern. Oxford burst back onto the county's radar last summer, and they're still the talk of the town, though as much for the pending stadium decision as the upcoming season. Their challenge now? Somehow keeping that underdog spirit that served them so well last year, while showing they belong at this level. It's a tricky balance to strike. Last season, they were everyone's favourites for the drop, but finished a comfortable 17th. The Championship looks tougher this time around, with most pundits predicting them to just dodge relegation. Ironically, Oxford fans might prefer being written off completely. It seemed to work well last time.
It's vaguely interesting that this time round there's been no song and dance about the fact that John Messino is going back to where he came from. At least he came from Oxford to us. We didn't exactly poach him. I have a funny feeling that he would like to have stayed, if he'd stayed at Oxford, if we hadn't given him the job. He had his eyes on the Oxford job. And he's probably quite pleased that he is where he is. Because, of course, he's doing great things with Pompey, and he cherishes our owners because they are so steadfast and true to their word. So he's benefited enormously from leaving Oxford at the time that he did and coming to us, and we've benefited enormously from that. Are Oxford looking a little bit shaky as we gear up to meet them on Saturday afternoon? That's what lots of people are saying, that they're a wee bit vulnerable and that we could be playing them about the right time, but you don't count your chickens before they're hatched, do you? So it's still fingers crossed.
Nathan Ferguson is back on the road looking for his next club after a fine spell with Pompey. John Messino says,
We didn't publicise it heavily towards the back end of last year, but Nathan was training with us from about February onwards. He never missed a training day, was always fit, and managed to get games in pre-season as well. We have seen, particularly in the Reading game, how well he's done. He showed glimpses throughout pre-season of what he is capable of, so to keep himself fit for that amount of time was really positive. To keep himself fit again in pre-season and then take that leap to playing games for the first time was really big for Nathan. Everybody has managed to stay fit and come through pre-season pretty well. It was as simple as that. We spoke to Nathan about how the opportunities in terms of minutes were now going to go, and we wanted him to see what he could explore elsewhere. Nathan's got that 6 months worth of training behind him, he's had a full pre-season, and can now show footage to other clubs. He can actually point to the evidence of the fact he has played. We can send training data, we can send physical data, which is all really good. He is a very, very good athlete and a really good kid, so I think it will really help.
So it was an interesting one with Ferguson, wasn't it? He did show some promise, we felt. We didn't get to see much of him ourselves due to the nature of the friendlies that he played in. But he played in those friendlies, and it was no doubt an enormous monkey off his back that he was able to compete properly at a pretty high level, because he's obviously been very trepidatious about coming back and falling prey to injury yet again. Poor man. Clearly a very, very capable footballer, but he's in his mid-20s now and he's only played 20-odd competitive games because of his injury problems. Now, were we doing a kindness in having him train with us from February of this year, almost in secret, nobody knew? Possibly we have a big heart, but underneath it all, as John Messino says, he is here to win matches, not to make friends. So whilst there may have been an element of just common decency about letting Ferguson train with us, get himself back towards peak match fitness, John Messino was also keeping an eagle eye on his potential. And if he felt that Ferguson could slot in and would be durable, then he would have been an absolute bargain. And that was priority number 1, 2 and 3 in Messino's mind. I think we know him well enough to know that besides being a decent bloke, he's also a ruthless bloke.